Can I tell this
No,
story?
please. I don't know what you're gonna tell. I don't know what you're gonna tell.
One year, Marcus was helping me out, and he spotted a monarch butterfly one day. You tried to go over the fence
Oh,
for it.
yes, yes. Oh, this is great. I sort of tripped and broke my foot trying to catch a monarch butterfly. I actually caught the butterfly.
You caught it, I know.
I caught the butterfly and broke my foot in the process. But butterfly research can be very
Oh,
dangerous.
yes.
Monarch butterflies may be one of North America's most iconic insects. Generations of schoolchildren, hobbyists, and educators have reared monarchs in classrooms and on kitchen tables, watching in wonder as yellow-striped caterpillars transform into orange and black butterflies.
The monarch butterflies, they're really famous primarily for one thing, which is their massive annual migration. So every fall, monarch butterflies across the United States and southern Canada fly south to spend the winter in Mexico.
The journey starts in the spring as monarchs make their way north. A typical monarch only lives for about 2 to 6 weeks, so it takes 4 to 5 generations to make the nearly 3,000-mile trip north. Each generation flies, mates, lays eggs, and ultimately dies as they pass on the baton. As summer ends, female butterflies lay a special generation of eggs. When those eggs hatch, the caterpillars that emerge are very different from their parents.
These are the migratory butterflies, and they live a really long time. Those butterflies are the ones that fly all the way from the northern US and southern Canada. They fly all the way to Mexico, and then those same butterflies in the spring start flying north out of Mexico to start repopulating the US. So that's what we think of as like this super generation of butterflies.
The way that it's triggered in between the summer generations and the super generation is something environmental, and there's a lot of speculation about what those sort of cues might be.
Part of our recent research has been trying to dissect what those environmental cues are that are triggering the development of this super generation.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says the monarch population has declined more than 80% in the past 20 years. The agency is set to determine next year whether they should be added to the endangered species list. A growing number of people are rearing monarch butterflies at home in hopes that they can contribute to the population's recovery. But Dr. Cronforest and Aisha urge caution.
Many people that really care about the monarchs and want to help boost dwindling populations of monarchs, they go outside, they collect eggs and caterpillars, and they bring them into their house to raise them to adults to let them go. So in this case, what we did is we brought wild-caught monarchs into captivity and exposed them to sort of cool temperatures, gave them a short day length like they would experience in the fall. And it turns out that under those conditions, those monarchs did not fly south. They didn't want to migrate. When we bring them indoors and then test them in this flight simulator, we find that the monarchs, rather than them all flying south, they essentially fly in random directions. And we worry that when they bring them into their house to raise them, they might be removing them from these natural environmental cues that cause them to develop into migratory insects.
Even monarchs purchased from commercial breeders, whether reared indoors or outdoors, will not fly south due to changes in their genetics from overbreeding.
We tested one particular group of commercial butterflies, found that they did not migrate south like their wild counterparts.
When we take them outside and raise them under natural environmental conditions, these monarchs are not capable of responding to those natural environmental cues. So there's something different about them genetically that makes them unable to respond.
People sort of describe it as nature versus nurture. They're missing the nature part and they're getting the nurture part, but that's not enough. And then for the ones that are wild but brought indoors, those have the correct sort of nature, right? The correct genetics, but they're now experiencing the wrong nurture. The ones that were reared outdoors are really the only ones so far that we've seen that have this drive to go south.
So how are people supposed to help? What's the best way to rear monarch butterflies at home?
We're doing more experiments this summer to figure out just how natural it has to be.
Yeah, like if you raise
because
them in your sun porch, is that enough?
We know that definitely if you do it outside, the monarchs will develop into migratory insects.
So if you have a home with a yard, you can plant flowering plants that butterflies like. That is really helpful because they need to sort of replenish themselves before they go to Mexico, where they basically don't eat. The caterpillars only eat milkweed, so planting milkweed will definitely really help the monarch population.
And my goodness, there's so many people across the US and Canada that are really very deeply invested in this insect and the annual migration, and we get it. It's an important thing, and it's something that I think we all need to think hard about and work hard to make sure that it lasts. It's thrilling, and hopefully it continues on for generations to come.